this part on Russia is also designed to create confusion in the masses. The U.S. has done a good job of creating this image of Russia as being the enemy. Okay? But what we need to clear up is a few things. Russia and the USSR are not even the same thing. The USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, at one time included the area that we refer to as Russia when the entire region, inclusive of the Ukraine, was all in harmony with each other for their collective fight for self-determination. But yet Russia has returned to being a capitalist country. The relationship is only fragile between the United States and between Russia, or strong. It can be fragile sometimes, or it can be strong. It's only as fragile or strong as the U.S. can have its way. The media has portrayed Putin as problematic, but remember, this same Trump is the one who was touting Putin as someone he had a relationship with. He said he was, the goodness of the Russian people was there when he went to visit. He talked about how nice they were, and he said that he does a lot of business with Russia. Okay, so then what's the problem? Why is Russia such a big threat now? Well, the U.S. is friendly with Russia when their capitalist ventures support their mutual interests. And seeing that they are now both capitalist empires, it means that there's a working class here and a working class there that both of them are exploiting. And it's not a socialist nation of people who are causing the exploitation and oppression. It's a capitalist country that's doing that. We must always remember that nations of people in colonized countries, they're not the same thing. As the Soviet Union fell, the U.S. and NATO walked into Eastern Europe, but military bases throughout the region overturned all of the socialist programs that were built by the people. They established a pro-IMF and right-wing puppets. They cut social programs and engaged in racist, anti-women, and homophobic rants. Because why? Because capitalism works best when racism and heteropatriarchy dig in to divide the people up amongst themselves and against themselves. The living standards of the people in Eastern Europe have plummeted for the workers in these now neo-colonies. But the Democrats, are silent about it all. They only want to talk about poor people when they think they're moving towards socialism. But when poor people exist in a capitalist state, they don't say anything, and we know that because we see it right here in this capitalist state. We can go outside, we see all kind of people struggling, and you don't have anything to say about that in spite of all the riches we have. So, as workers in the U.S., we should be asking ourselves, what would the U.S. want to do with Russia now that it is no longer a part of the Federation of Social Republics? The aim is what the aim has always been for the U.S., to spread its own capitalist powers further. Imperialism is nothing more than capitalism at its highest level, in its highest form. And the U.S. military is designated arm of the capitalists to carry this out. The imperialist aim of the U.S. with Russia, similar to everywhere else that it goes, was to move in and take over Russia. So, even capitalist governments, now I said before, nations of people is not the same as a country. Those are two different things. But let's be clear, even capitalist governments, as Russia is now, they want to resist this takeover regardless of previous friendships that were built on mutual interest. This is what capitalists do. They seek to take over and monopolize whatever they can, and this is dangerous because those capitalists seek to devour. They don't sit back and just allow it to happen. They resist and they fight back too. Yet some way, somehow, there are people around the globe who've maintained a stance that capitalism and its devouring ways cannot hold them down. The movement locally and globally progresses by those who do not play respectability politics, but those who stand up to the lies, unveil the class truths and economic interests behind all U.S. policies. This is my favorite part. This comes straight from you, Gav. It progresses by principles. The movement itself progresses and moves forward by principles and not expediency. I love that. I'm going to say this. The movement progresses by principles and not expediency. The movement progresses by principles and not opportunism. The movement progresses by principles, come on, Quest, It progresses by principles and not careerism. We keep talking about this. It does not matter if the capitalist message comes to you. Let me slow down on this one. It does not matter if the capitalist message comes to you through a man or a woman, through a gender non-conforming person, through a child or an adult, through a white person or a black person, through a yellow, red, or brown person, through a Christian or a Jew, through a U.S. citizen or a French citizen, a documented person or an undocumented person. If there's a capitalist message, the message is the same. And our principles as revolutionaries must be the same. We say to investing in the U.S. military budget, no, because there is no room for an imperialist agenda, not in a revolutionary movement. All right, so to wrap up this part on Russia, during World War II, the Soviet Union lost 30 million people at the hands of the Nazis. The U.S., follow me now, this is juicy. I'm like, okay, come on, follow me. 30 million people at the hands of the Nazis. The U.S. and British capitalists hoped that the Nazis would destroy the Soviet Union. Okay? The U.S. entered the war not for democracy, but because the Red Army, which was formed immediately after the success of the 1917 October Revolution, had defeated the Nazis. The revolutionary activity was beginning to liberate Eastern Europe, with revolutions looming also in Greece and Italy and other countries. The Marshall Plan was formulated to ensure U.S. had renewed German capitalist control over the workers and would squash the revolution. When the Soviet Union fell, the imperialists promised Russia that they would not build NATO or U.S. bases on their border. But guess what? As of today, there are dozens of U.S. military bases encircling the western border. So, is this to ensure the democracy in Russia? No. Putin himself was a good friend to the U.S. until the ExxonMobil Corporation tried to secretly buy off the Russian state director of energy to turn over their oil and gas industry. See, the same way we see corporations, even here in the U.S., take over each other, monopolize each other, and grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Just keep taking them over, buying them out, taking them over. That's what's happening with imperialism. These capitalist countries are too joyful for the opportunity to take over somebody else's country, because the more land you control, the more natural resources you control, the more workers you can manipulate. Let's wrap this up. So it became clear that despite Putin being a capitalist, he and the others were not going to just hand over Russia to the U.S. and Germany for extraction and exploitation. So while the Democrats are out here putting Trump on blast for engaging Ukraine and providing them weapons as they sit right next door to Russia, we must remember that the people of Russia are made up of many nationalities. Just like we're here in the U.S., they have a long memory of the horrific attacks of the Nazis on their lives. They also remember the history and stories of their resistance, their heroic sacrifice, and their suffering. When a people know their history, they are not as likely to just roll over with every new wind and propaganda that train goes by. But that's our problem. We don't often know our history. So when things come this way, we just kick heels and keep rolling with it. And we're here today to say it's time to fight back. What the media fails to share is that the U.S. installed a Nazi regime in the Ukraine and armed it, which gave Russia every right to help the anti-Nazi resistance in eastern Ukraine. That does not make Russia an enemy to the working class of the U.S. It makes them know that they have enough sense not to allow the U.S. to muster up forces against them and ultimately dominate them. Who would? We know that this is the case because the U.S. still has yet to enforce rejecting right-wing nationalism in any action-oriented way right here. So if we're not addressing it here, you know we're not going over there to do it. So this is so important to understand how and why the masses are tempered by this two-party system, those who are elected to serve the people. Yet it is wrong that Trump demands an investigation to dig up all kind of dirt on Joe Biden. But this is not new either, because at the end of the day, it's only an issue when their mutual interest conflict. No one wants to contend with this, but the crimes of both Trump, laid by the foundation established by the Obama administration, put it together, was supplying arms to the Ukraine in the first place. And you know what? Both the Republican and Democratic parties allowed it to happen. That was a Democrat president we had before Trump, a black one at that. Because in this regard, their interests are mutual. Every day, the U.S. sanctions are arming and training opposition to Venezuela to demand the Maduro government to leave. Every day, they hold hostage any food exports as a result of the demands by the IMF, the World Bank, and the Morgan Stanley. They want to push anyone in the international community for not complying with the demands of the capitalist state. We are seeing this is the case in Bolivia right now. I keep bringing this up about Bolivia because we hope to see you out there on Tuesday. This is the nature of the capitalist beast, and it pushes to expand with every imperialist war. Our desire to see Trump out of the White House, yes, it's a worthy desire, but it must be on a principled stance. When we sit in silence on the approval of a more than $700 billion budget, rather than actively fight for those resources to be proactively directed into services that nurture and develop the highest regard for human life, we too are complicit. Even if and when this man gets impeached, what then? How is the working class any better off? The song and dance to make us feel a little better because we get to hear and read a few less racist tweets. This is no different than the way in which we get excited about opposition and opposing a racist Republican governor in the state of Louisiana, only to elect a conservative, compromising Democrat of a governor who joyfully signs bills that are not in alignment with the working class. We cannot deceive the people that this process of impeachment for Trump is anything exceptional, especially since the entire process is being controlled by the hands of the establishment, rather than being forced by the masses of working class people anchored in a people's agenda that bears fruit for the actual people. We are here today to say that we are building a principled revolutionary party. We are here building principled revolutionary activity, and we are here today to invite you to join us. Yeah.
All right. Y'all give it up for Angela Kinlaw one more time. Always coming with that heat rock, you know. She could have dropped the mic after that, man. So look, you know, we want to go ahead and just open this up to, you know, the guests here, for y'all to be able to give us some feedback, you know, add some commentary, some questions and whatnot. And, you know, again, the only way we're going to be able to keep this thing going is for people to join, people to continuously, you know, get down with some of the educational sessions, spread the word, spread the newspaper, write in the newspaper, come on a radio show, you know, and just keep organizing. You know, how we gonna make New Orleans rise? Educate, agitate, organize. All right. So boom, if anybody got any questions, any comments to, you know, be able to add, you could just, you know, raise your hand, I call on you. You know, I got a little bit of teaching thing up in me. I know how to call on the students and the peoples. You know, on everybody. Gav said, you know, they all blew it out the water, so it's like, not much else needs to be said, huh? But, you know, we want to just keep building with some future comrades. Go ahead, my man in the back there.
How do you guys feel about, like, you know, something like calling, like, analytics to find the next, like, potential people that can be in here? Because the people that or the next potential people are already educating themselves, and if you can like, brand and market like content like this to them, you can reach them. And you can get them in. Like I'm like wondering if you ever thought about that, or would you be
And look, we always
or something? Because I could assist with that.
Hey, look, definitely. You got your contact info on when you signed in? Huh? Yeah, man. Make sure you got your name, phone number, email address, whatever. Because we definitely are in favor of building and gaining more new potential comrades and ideas to the table to be able to help spread this messaging and whatnot. Because that's the key to it all. It ain't nothing for us to have all this and it's retained here. We gotta keep it flowing elsewhere. So, we definitely in favor of that. And, comrade right there next to you is real good at helping out with the analytics of things. Good. Anybody else got anything else they want to be able to add to the conversation and keep this thing growing? Some thoughts, something that maybe sparked your interest, something that really caught your attention. We could build off of that.
Yeah, like, I was gonna say, like, about definitely, like, people, like, our government doesn't care about, like, the whole biodiversity, depletion, invasive species, and all of these different things, because I've, like, worked on this for years with my school. I've brought together organizations, we've went out, we've planted marsh grass, we've killed invasive species, like, and I just feel like there's not enough people out there that are, like, willing to actually put forth the effort to get that all out and to try to fix what people don't care about. Because if we don't end up like helping out our environment, how do you think we're gonna get seafood? How do you, like, in the future we're not gonna be able to have all of this biodiversity and resources because it's all gonna be depleted.
And that's the case of when you say now about people out there, you talking about like the politicians, that's the people in power.
Don't want to help.
Right.
They don't care.
Go ahead, Jules.
It's such an interesting, like, contradictory thought process for them to have in, like, a city and a state that depends so much on, like, their wealth coming from tourism of, like, people who are coming to get oyster and I want some boiled seafood. So how do you intend to bring in that tourist money if that's what you're trying to do if all the animals are dead and you don't have no mushrooms because